Hello, Jan here from Into the Woods, and I've brought you out to meet a tree. It's one of my favourite trees. It's this big old oak tree behind me in the middle of the picture. Now there's a story behind this tree. I've lived in this house for about 13 years, and quite a few years ago an old man came to the door. And he had a photograph, and he said, "I am a friend of a man who was stationed here in the Second World War." Because all of this area around here was an American airbase in the Second World War. There were buildings and Nissan huts and all sorts, roads and runways, all in this area. Now most of it has been dismantled. Obviously the airmen went back home to the States, the ones that survived, and one of these elderly gentlemen had sent a photograph of him and his mates underneath an oak tree and said, "I'd really like a picture of this oak tree as it is now because it holds so many fond memories for me." And I was kind of laughing inside, and I was thinking, well, good luck with that one, because this is a historic parkland and there are about 200 old oak trees here, so we're not very likely to find it. He showed me the photograph and I was like, oh my goodness, I know that tree, that's my tree. Because this is the tree that I can see from my kitchen window, and I look at it lovingly when I'm washing up, and I've seen it go through the seasons so many times. And I've always wondered about this tree. I mean, if you look at it, you can see there's lots of dead branches. It looks as though it's on its last legs, and when I walk past it, I've always given it a bit of a wide berth because I didn't want bits to fall on my head. When I looked at this photograph, I knew exactly which tree it was, because in the photograph it's exactly the same, with exactly the same amount of dead limbs. The limbs are just the same shape. That was 60-70 years ago. It hasn't changed in all that time. And I find that amazing. I mean, it makes the tree even more special to me because of the history, and because I know that this elderly man held it with such great affection. But also, it really gives a different sense of time. That I, in the past, have looked at a tree like this with lots of dead on it and thought, that tree's dying. And I kind of think of, 10 years it's going to fall down. Actually, trees fall back very, very slowly. And it's not the sudden event that it is for mammals and insects. It's a slow decline, and during that decline it is tremendously valuable for wildlife. So many different insects and fungi depend on a tree like this that is dying back, and there are so few of them in our landscape that an area like this, where there are a lot of trees that are in their declining years, are incredibly valuable, and they're pockets, they're little arcs of this special ecosystem where an insect might need an elderly tree, a veteran tree like this at one stage in its life, and a young tree at another stage of its life, and if you haven't got them both together, it can't live here. So I hope you enjoy this tree as well, as much as I do, and if only for its beauty. It's incredibly beautiful. Just like an elderly person who has got lines on their face and other signs of aging, but there's light in their eyes and there's intelligence and curiosity. There's still life there, and that's the same kind of beauty I see in this tree, and I hope you can appreciate it too.